Hi, Lawrence. Here we
Hi,
go.
Laurie.
It's another day in the neighborhood. How are you over in the UK?
Well, I've got my new guitar and I've been given a
Yeah,
tune to learn, so I've got another lesson tomorrow, so that should be fun. It's
good, good. And
pretty
you're coming
cold here,
along,
but
you're learning something?
yeah, I can play a
Good.
few tunes badly at the moment.
What would you say if I
It-
sang
it's,
out a
it's a,
tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me, right?
I'll probably do that one next. Yeah.
Everybody knows I can't sing, so I thought I would just, do that real quick and get that over with. So here we are, and we're going to talk about a couple of different topics tonight. One that we haven't really talked about before, except to just sort of roll around the edges of it. But we're going to talk about simulation theory in just a little bit. First of all, we're going to talk about a video that Lawrence shared with me, and then I wrote a blog article on flatearthconspiracy.com website, and then I posted it in our Facebook group, and it is a debunking the flat Earth video by a guy named who, or a channel named who, Lawrence?
Cool Hard Logic.
Cool Hard Logic. Okay, so he systematically goes through the flat Earth maps model and pretty much rips it to shreds. He does do your classic ad hominem calling us stupid. And to those who can't handle that kind of thing, you probably won't listen to more than a few minutes of it. But I devil dog dare you to listen to the entire thing just so you can understand what it is that these debunkers are using to debunk flat Earth. And Lawrence has got more on that. What do you got, Lawrence?
Yeah, well, the presentation, let me just bring it up. I'm not going to play it all, just a bit of it, so we can see what he's actually saying. I'm going to share the screen first, don't I? There we go, share screen. Share, okay. All right, so it's Cool Hard Logic. Let me just get it going. Yeah, I'll just play it from. Hang on.
Yeah, we can't hear it though. I may have to be the one to play it with the microphone on it.
All right. Well, do you want to do it? Do you want to play it then, and I'll tell you which bits to go at?
Okay, if you want. Let me.
All right.
I almost tried to copy the link on the Hangout. That was pretty funny. Such an automatic response.
Have you got it? Do you want me to send it to you?
Send it to me on Facebook. That'll probably be faster than, or you can put it in chat in the Hangout if you want.
Okay. It's in chat.
Okay, here we go. And let me bring it up. And where do you want me to go on it?
I'll give you the time thing in a minute. Just a minute.
Okay, let me get the microphone ready. Sorry, folks at home.
Move it on to about 6 minutes.
Okay, we'll go
Maybe on to 6
minutes.
and then just play it for a couple of minutes, and I'll tell you when we, I'll stop. You can stop it when I've got my point to make.
Okay, here we go.
Another pathetic ad hoc excuse concocted by flat earthers to try and account for their bone idleness. That and the idea that the earth is flat is bollocks. Noting that flatards claim that distances on land are the same on their fantasy world, they've failed to consider a simple and fundamental problem. Whilst you could just stick a landmass onto a polar grid without changing distances between its locations, you can't do so without changing their coordinates. The best you can hope for is to get one line of points matched up, but then the coordinates of everywhere else are wrong. It's inescapable. Consider, for instance, Australia. 30 degrees south of the equator on the eastern coast is the small town of Red Rock. Let's take this point here, 30 degrees south and 153 degrees 13 minutes east. At the same latitude on the west coast, just 6 kilometers south of the town of Lehman, let's take this point at 30 degrees south, 115
Are you
degrees
showing this?
latitude.
Are you sharing this, Laurie?
38
It's not
degrees
on my
in 13
screen.
minutes. If you were to set off from our point near
All right,
Red Rock
well,
and
hold on a
drive
second,
west
because I thought it
until you get
was.
to our point near
There's no
Lehman,
picture up.
you would cover a distance.
I see the picture, so obviously it's not going through the screen share, so hold on just 1 second. Maybe I was seeing your version.
Oh, mine wasn't moving.
Okay, let's try this one more time. Okay, present to everyone, and here we go again.
Oh, yeah, wind
Play.
it back to 6. Wind it back to. Oh yeah, leave it on that then. It's okay.
On the west coast, just 6 kilometers south of the town of Lehman, let's take this point at 30 degrees south, 115
Are you sharing this, Laurie?
All right, now I don't know what the hell's going on. That's so funny. I'm sorry, people. I thought I was sharing it. Okay, so I want this to be what I'm sharing. So we're going to get out of this screen share and start over. Ugh, God. Application window, this one, share. And why isn't it coming up? There we go. How's that?
It is up.
Now you
It's
can
there,
see it.
yeah.
All right, here we go. Sorry about the glitches. This is not a perfect system.
Oh, my screen.
Ugh. All right, now one more try, and this should do it. My apologies, folks. Where is the other screen? Here it is. This
It's
one.
over land between these 2 points of 3,687 kilometers. So what happens if we travel along the same 30 degrees south latitude line for 38 degrees and 13 minutes on the polar grid of the flat Earth? The 30 degrees south line is 13,322 kilometers from the geographic North Pole and must be on the flat Earth too, for reasons we saw earlier. We know the longitudinal and hence angular separation between our 2 points at this latitude, 38 degrees and 13 minutes, or 38.217 degrees. The length of an arc on a circle, subtended by an angle alpha, is alpha pi r over 180. When we crunch the numbers, we find that 2 points on the flat Earth surface, 30 degrees south of the equator, and separated by 38 degrees and 13 minutes, are 8,886 kilometers apart. This is 2.41 times greater than the real distance between our points near Red Rock.
All right, Laurie, just stop it for a minute now.
Okay, so this is one of those places where when I posted it in the group, I was admonished for sharing this filth, actually. And then second, I was also admonished. Oh, wait, I got to move my microphone up again. I was also admonished because they didn't use the so-called scale that is accompanied with the Gleason map. Okay. And that was one of the people's argument, was that you got to use the same scale, that this guy's making up his own scale. How do you answer to that, Lawrence?
Well, if you look on the definition of the AE map, even the wiki one, it will tell you that the only place that the map is accurate are places that go in a straight line from the pole, from the North Pole. So if you've got that as evidence of an accurate distance, then if you get the distance from the North Pole to the South Pole, then you get the radius of a circle. So and from that, you can work out the distances of anything. So that is not an argument. If there's a scale to the AE map, what I said is if you adjusted the map to reflect the correct, so everything was an equal area, you would end up with the Calignan map. And they didn't like that.
Yeah, right. Okay. So the problem with these debunking videos, obviously, that no one seems to like at all, is the fact that they debunk this map and this model. They cannot debunk the flatness of Earth. They don't go there. That's not what they're interested in. They don't care about curvature. They don't care about, distances between this and that in reality. Okay. But when given this map and it being called the Flat Earth map, and anyone who uses that terminology is subject to this kind of flatardness, because not only do these people debunk it, we've debunked it ourselves. And the reality is it's the map and the model that's the debunked part. It's not the flatness of the Earth, and it's not, whether there's curvature or not, or any of that. This guy probably doesn't even go there at all, like none of them do, right, Lawrence? I mean, they're always attacking the map and the model, the circular map and the circular model with the sun going around in circles.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that I've looked at those two places on the actual map that I made, and it's about 15% out, which doesn't surprise me because obviously they're using great circle routes, even on the land. That journey over the land there, even that's got a curve on it. And if you play it on a bit longer, it covers the flight from Johannesburg to Sydney. So if you want to play that, and then I've got something to show about that flight from Johannesburg to Sydney, and then I can show you on the Calignan map how it compares with the official distance.
Okay.
So
let me go back to that a little bit.
But flatards say that distances on land are the same on their giant space pizza as in real life. In this case, 3,687 kilometers. In that case, they must agree that the separation in longitude on the flat Earth must be considerably smaller than it is in real life. It's an inescapable feature of the geometry. If we make L 2.41 times smaller, we must make the angle alpha 2.41 times smaller, which means that on the flat Earth, the difference in longitude between our points near Red Rock and Lehman would be just 15.85 degrees. Reality, however, begs to differ. And that's a paradox that flatards can't resolve. These points are 3,687 kilometers apart, and their longitudes are separated by 38 degrees and 13 minutes. It is simply impossible for flatards to keep distances the same without giving glaring discrepancies in their own coordinate system. And it is impossible to keep the coordinates of locations the same without giving glaring discrepancies in distances and, consequently, the shapes of land masses. Particularly paranoid flatards needn't rely on GPS to check this. They can use the old-fashioned methods of establishing longitude and latitude, and find themselves wondering why reality disagrees with their stupid beliefs. For the rest of us, the reason is simple. They're geometrically illiterate buffoons, and this is bollocks. The claim that distances on land are the same in the flatard disk world would also obviously mean that distances over sea couldn't be. As with problems on land, the further south you go, the greater the discrepancies would become.
I want to interject here, though, that what he is referring to is to those who forget about the scale, forget about the adjustments for the equidistant, they believe that this is a representation of the flat Earth based on this map, or one that looks like it, where these continents are, where they're located, because they replicate the similarities to the UN map, and therein is the biggest part of the problem.
If you travel over the ocean in anything other than a north-south direction. This also screws up simple travel. Qantas fly direct from Sydney to Johannesburg in South Africa 6 days a week. It's a direct distance of 11,060 kilometers, with the flight taking around 13 hours and 20 minutes. with a speed of 830 kilometers an hour. As you might have expected, things on the flat Earth aren't quite so simple. Sydney Airport is 151.1772 degrees east. Johannesburg's OR Tambo Airport is 28.2461 degrees east. The difference in longitude is therefore 122.9311 degrees. Sydney Airport is 13,759 kilometres from the North Pole. OR Tambo Airport is 12,894 kilometres from the North Pole. Now that we have two sides of the triangle and the angle between them, we can use the law of cosines to calculate the straight line distance from Sydney to Johannesburg on the flat Earth. The distance d is equal to the root of a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c. When we crunch the numbers, we find that on the fantasy flat Earth, the distance is 23,419 kilometres. This is more than twice as far as it is in reality. For the Boeing 747-400s that Qantas use on this route, this poses something of a problem. With maximum payload, they have a maximum range of 13,438 kilometres, which means they would fall rather short of their intended destination, which somewhat defeats the purpose of a direct flight. Fear not, though, the route taken by the Flattard Airways flight would pass over Papua New Guinea, China, the Himalayas, India, the Gulf of Oman, the Arabian Peninsula, the Gulf of Aden, the countries of East Africa, including a nice view of Lake Malawi, so could refuel along the way. There is, however, a lack of stopover options along the route. The Tibetan Plateau has a paucity of international airports. India's Indira Gandhi Airport is a bit too close to maximum range. Qantas don't fly there anyway.
Okay, so he's beaten a dead horse, obviously, and there's not a lot of reason to, listen to a lot more of that at the moment, but he's making the same point that Lawrence and I have been making for nearly a year and a half. And he probably got a whole lot of this from us, truth be told.
Yeah, well, that last bit, obviously, he was saying that the aircraft didn't have the fuel to fly that range. And we covered that in the show about 3 weeks ago. Right. So a lot of the content on there, he's probably lifted off us, but not that we want any credit for it anyway. But
sadly, if we don't say it, they'll say it. Somebody's gonna say it, right? And that's the bottom line of debunking anything. So
let me just wrap this.
Wrap this up insofar as to explain why we would agree with a globehead who's calling us flatards, all of us, okay, at all.
Okay, just a minute. So I'm just going to show you that route first on here. Is the screen on, Laurie? Is it on your end?
Yes, it is.
All right, Sydney to Johannesburg.
I also got a big kick out of that trigger type music that he was playing in the background of his video. That is the kind of music that is often played when you're trying to lead someone and sort of do a trigger brand of relaxation. It's called ASMR triggers. And it's pretty effective to get someone to accept your information. So anyway, for those who are globeheads already, they suck it up.
Okay, so if you look at the map, you've got the flight route from Sydney, Australia to Johannesburg in South Africa. But because they're depicting a flight over a globe, the blue line has got quite a sharp curve on it. And the distance is 11,058. Now on the, can't see this, on the Calignan map, I've mapped, plotted in the longitude and latitude of those places, and the distance is coming out as 15% less. So I'll show you the map next time we come off this screen. But it's interesting to note. So if you looked at flying from somewhere like London, you know, similar sort of distance, or not far off anyway, several thousand miles. If you were going to fly from London to, say, Cape Town, take a look at the shape of the route on that. You can see that's almost a straight line route. So that's a distance of just short of 6,000 miles. So that's a straight line route, but it's still flying over a globe. So you would think that the depiction of curved lines would be, you know, the same wherever, but it isn't. And then if you want to, as you get further north and south for routes going from east to west or west to east, then it gets even more pronounced. So if we look at something like Seattle to London,
So what you're saying is that of more northerly or southerly the flights are on
from the equator, yeah.
From the equator, then
Yeah.
that's when they're adding that big circle thing in there.
Well, you look at that.
Great circle route.
That is
Yeah,
going
that's
halfway up
quite
Greenland.
curved.
You know, London's latitude 50 and Seattle's about the same, but it's going up to something like, I don't know, 66 or thereabouts. It's going inside the Arctic Circle to come back down to the UK. Now, whether they really take those routes, I don't know, but it would be a complete nonsense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
A complete waste of fuel. So, and then, but then you say, well, let's just take a look at what the flight shape is if you went from somewhere like Quito on the equator to Nairobi in Africa, but that's almost on the equator. Take a look at the line on that. And what do you get? That's more or less a straight line. Isn't it? Yeah. Well, where is the no curve on that? It's still over.
Why is there no curve? Right.
Yeah. So
because they're showing you that it's on the same latitude.
Yeah. So you go to Nairobi.
So what is the difference? That's why you would have to compare that to the difference in the amount of different amount of latitude from Sydney to Santiago, or from Santiago to Cape Town, blah blah. If you're changing latitude significantly, that's when that great circle pops in.
Yeah. All right. So you're going to stay on the same latitude now, and then go from Nairobi to Singapore, and again, you're getting another virtually straight route. There's no curve in that line.
Right.
So anything along the equator, you know, to somewhere else on the equator, it's a perfectly straight line. But as you move north and south,
what is your what's your hypothesis or theory on why they're so curved far north and south, and why they're not in the center, Lawrence?
I don't know, because they'd still have to fly around a curved surface, wouldn't they? So I'm not sure. You know, the ball is supposed to have an equal amount of curvature.
Sure. I mean, other than the fact that it's supposed to be a little pear-shaped, whatever.
But in reality, you know, it goes to a point north and south. But this explains the discrepancies between the globe and the Calignan map. So when I map out distances along the equator, they're exactly spot on. But when I do ones that, you know, go down at the extremities, we're looking at being as much as 15% out. And 15% is the difference between a mile and a nautical mile.
Right.
And it's interesting to note that, you know, nautical miles relate to the sea, but they don't relate to the land. But the curvature over the land is going to be the same as over the sea. That's why they've got nautical miles, to reflect the curvature of the Earth, meaning it's a bit further to go. But it's just as far over land. So in my world, a mile is for the flat Earth, and a nautical mile is for the fake model of the globe.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I can see that. Yeah. I can see that.
So
So,
and you can look, you can do this yourself. Just go onto, Travel Math, and you can look at routes all over the world, and you'll see what I'm saying is true. So anything, and anything that's going north south in a straight line. So if you went, for example, from Nuuk, which is in Iceland, in Greenland, and then you went down to Stanley, which is the Falkland Islands, tip of South America, you'd get a route like this. Again, it's, you're looking at a straight line. But that's flying, nearly 8,000 miles in a straight line. How can something fly in a straight line on a globe 8,000 miles?
It's pretty tricky how they're playing this game, isn't it?
So there's
Pretty
something
tricky.
going on there.
Yeah,
and I think
pretty tricky. If it's north and south, it's straight. If it's east and west, it's straight. If it's in the middle, but if it's on the extremities of the east and west, or I mean the north and south, then it's extreme.
So you could do a route from the prime meridian to the base, down to the South Pole area, and do one across the equator, and the routes would form a perfect square.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what does that tell you? Then everything else is distorted. Anything else going between you're dividing it into four. Everything else is going to be distorted apart from over short distances. So that's telling you that part of their map is wrong. The straight line parts of their map are correct, like over the equator, but everything else is wrong.
Okay, so don't shoot the messenger when the messenger tells you that some of the reasons why the flat earth has tapered off in growth in the community and in new people. Although I will say that there is a huge surge of flat earth in Indonesia. I'm not exactly sure why. It must be their turn to have been introduced to the PSYOP that starts flat earth until you become a flat earther and dig through enough research to find out that, like Lawrence and I have, that you may have been duped with regards to the map and model, but it's still flat. So that is going to segue me to talking about simulation theory. And for those who have not done any research on it at all, simulation theory is basically that we live in a simulation. And whether you want to consider it some sort of a bio AI simulation, or that it's 100% a computer simulation, this is some territory that we sort of touched on months ago. And because when Mark Sargent took off and sort of went incognito for a while in the flat earth community, post Patricia breakup kind of thing, and whatever else that was about with the hotel video, blah, blah. He sort of went under the radar, and people just sort of ignored or forgot about him, and he was kind of quiet. And then suddenly he sort of had a resurgence when Patricia came back into the scene with moving back to the United States and ditched her UK version of her show or whatever. And then regardless of how it happened or why it happened or who's a shill or not a shill, that's not where I'm going. Where I'm going is Mark's back. And when Mark came back, he came back boldly with starting to talk again or more about simulation theory. He always said we live in a Truman Show dome, whatever, blah, blah, like, and then he would say things like, from a game designer standpoint all the time. And there were plenty of simulation theory clues that he was going there. And so once Lawrence and I crossed the threshold of having to utilize the idea of Pac-Man and or a simulation or a portal or whatever, however you want to describe it, that fills in the mystery of how do you transport from, how does the sun transport from here to there and back again and so on. So having done some just initial looking for some initial research on simulation theory, a couple of things occurred to me. Is that there's quite a few things that don't make sense by themselves, and you can't get all the answers within its own research capacity. But if you jump into simulation theory to answer some of the questions that you cannot answer otherwise about flat Earth and other topics, suddenly it sort of fits really like a glove. And so a lot of people have a problem with simulation theory for the pure reason that, so what, God's a computer? I don't know. Do you know? I mean, if you really still think that it's God is a gray-haired old man up in the fluffy clouds sitting on a throne, then, you know, go ahead and think that. But there are all kinds of people who use the term source now for God, which is interesting because that's like source code. So one of the things I want to just sort of pour over, and I want your feedback on them, Lawrence, because you and I haven't really had an opportunity to talk about this. You sent me a link, which I will pull up right now and screen share. Let's see, what did I do with that? And get rid of that. Okay, now suddenly I can't find it, and I just had it up here. Simulation theory. Okay, here we go. This is the other video that I wanted to play a couple minutes of, and I'm going to pull it out here. And I'm going to do a screen share. Hello. Application window, this guy, share. It's going to be much faster this time. You're not even going to be able to stand the speed at which I'm going to pull this up here. Okay, getting the microphone ready. And do you have the video on the screen, Lawrence?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on, yeah.
Well, you know, it's been very interesting sitting on the stage and listening to my colleagues. But, you know, and I am far from experimental physicist, as you would imagine. But this is why experimental...
Which means you're a theorist.
Mm-hmm. Yes, something like that.
Okay. It's code for I'm a theorist.
I'm a theorist, exactly. But my point is that it is always the case that it is our experimental colleagues that prevent us from forming a religion, because it is always grounded in what they can measure, as Martello keeps coming back to. And so although people can express either enthusiasm or dismay about where we are at a given point in time, I think that we need to be a little bit more humble and to understand that the process that we engage in is a constant flight from fantasy about what we would want to happen. And we query nature for that, and that query goes through experiment. So although this has probably been very entertaining for my audience here, I think that at the end of the day, we have to keep grounded in it's got to be about things that affect your lives, and those things are measurable things.
So where has this pursuit taken you?
Oh my God.
Where have you landed?
Why would you ask that?
I'm asking that here and now. It's New York City. It's March 7th.
Well, partly it's taken to these very strange images that are behind your head right now. Mm-hmm. These are pictures of equations. I've been, for the last 15 years, trying to answer the kinds of questions that my colleagues have been raising. And what I've come to understand is that there are these incredible pictures that contain all the information of a set of equations that are related to string theory. And it's even more bizarre than that, because when you then try to understand these pictures, you find out that buried in them are computer codes just like the type that you find in a browser when you go surf the web. And so I'm left with the puzzle of trying to figure out whether I live in the matrix or not.
Wait, you're blowing my mind at this moment. So you're saying, are you saying your attempt to understand the fundamental operations of nature leads you to a set of equations that are indistinguishable from the equations that drive search engines and browsers on our computers?
That is correct. So,
Wait, I have to just be silent for a minute here.
He's
So you're
always
saying
so over
as
the
you
top.
dig deeper, you find computer code writ in the fabric of the cosmos.
into the equations that we want to use to describe the cosmos, yes.
Computer code.
Computer code, strings of bits of ones and zeros.
It's not just sort of resembles computer code. You're saying it is computer code.
It's not even just is computer code, it's a special kind of computer code that was invented by a scientist named Claude Shannon in the 1940s. That's what we find very, very deeply inside the equations that occur in string theory and in general in systems that we say are supersymmetric.
Okay. Time to go home, I think. Where are we going to go at? So are you saying we're all just, there's some entity that programmed the universe and we're just expressions of their code?
Well, I didn't say that. Some of those,
Like the Matrix? That's what you said.
Some of those codes are showing on the screen behind you right now. They don't look like codes, but these pictures, which we call adinkras, are graphical representations of sets of equations that are based on codes. So this is, in fact, to answer your question more directly, I have in my life come to a very strange place because I never expected.
I hope you're noticing the diamond shape, Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
That the movie The Matrix might be an accurate representation of the place in which I live.
Jim, may I give you an argument that we don't live in the Matrix?
Please. Yeah.
Very simple argument. A very
Give me
simple
one now,
argument.
quick.
A very simple argument. There's a property that the real world right down here has that no mathematical equation has, that no solution of an equation has, that no abstract object has. Here in the real world, it is always some moment, which is one of a series of passing moments. And a mathematical equation doesn't have a flow of time in it. It just is.
No,
and this means...
But Lee...
Wait, let him finish. Wait, I need him here and now.
This means that, to me, that the ancient metaphysical fantasy that we quote are just mathematics cannot be true, because in a world that was just mathematics, there would be no moment of time.
Why isn't there math as a
Lee,
function of time?
I'm sorry.
We solve those. These are differential equations.
But then you lay the solution out. X is a... Yeah.
You're mistaking. You keep using the word is, and I'm talking about the word describe. You see,
But described is fine. But
let me finish, please, since we started with my discussion. The point is that it's fun to talk about some deep metaphysical essence that sits behind physics. But for some of us, it's about trying to find the most accurate way to describe where we live. And so my statement is that in the description of our universe, that is a supersymmetrical universe, which we were going to test in the LHC. If you believe that description, I can show you the presence of these codes. That's my statement.
That's beautiful, and that's fine.
Okay, so now, interestingly enough, stop sharing. Okay, so what do you think about that, Lawrence? In the description of the universe, he says, string theory shows us, I'm trying to turn down some volume there. String theory is writ with computer code, zeros and ones.
Yeah, it could well be true. Now, I've got an interesting take on this, which might not have been, well, I'm sure people have raised it, but let me just give you some facts and figures on it.
Okay.
Let me just share the screen. So if I said to you, mean, I'm not that familiar with the vision, the virtual reality games. Have I gone? Virtual reality games. What the hell? Oh, I've lost my screen.
Now you got to go to the application screen, Lawrence. Go to screen share and then go to the application screen. There's two options there. You have to pull out the item that you're going to share into a separate tab now because they changed the format on the Hangout to where you can't.
All right. Okay, there we go. So, all right. So can you see that?
Yes, Moore's Law.
All right. Well, Moore's Law is a computing term which originated around 1970. The simplified version of this law states that processor speeds or overall processing power for computers will double every year. And it has, well, probably not quite doubled, but, not far off that. But the interest for me is that how did they know that they're going to be able to double it every year? And how do they know now that they can continue to double it? They must already have the technology to have the computers that would be available in 30 or 40 years now, if they know that they're going to be able to do it. Because to take, if you look at a chip, so you look at one of these Intel chips, and you want, these are made up of, transistors, little tiny transistors on them. Mm-hmm. And if you look at go back in the history of this, you go back to 1971, Intel had the first generation processor, and it had 2,300 transistors. The latest fourth generation processor has 1.7 billion transistors. So in 35 years, it's gone from 2,300 to 1.7 billion. And the difference between that in scale is that compared to then, we've got 750,000 times more processing power for computers in the space of 35 years. So if you looked at, where's that one gone? Where's that gone? Here we go. If you looked at, Intel claimed that by 2026, processors will have as many transistors as there are neurons in a brain. Then you get into computers that are smarter than us. So this is quite interesting because they've obviously got the technology now to be able to say that they'll be able to do it, because that otherwise they'd be relying on some development that enables them to extend the processing power. But if they already know, for me it means that they've already got it. And if you look at, let me just finish this one off. If you look at the virtual reality games that are available now, they're pretty realistic. Even these characters on TV where you've got a CGI version, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between them and the real one. If over the next 35 years, the processing power went up 750,000 times more, then how close to reality is that virtual reality going to be? There's probably going to be no difference. All right. If that's the case, then for me, virtual reality probably will be a possibility. So if there is a future beyond us, and they've decided to do, their ancestors and run programs on them as a game or whatever, or somebody has, then yeah, we could be a simulation, and it's very difficult to prove otherwise.
Well, the idea of Oops. Hey, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, John.
I was just going to say, but will the virtual reality be virtuous?
Well, I don't know.
Okay, so think about, anyway, welcome, John. Glad you could join us. And so one of the things that I'm going to do a screen share again and go to this. And are you living in a computer simulation? And this is a PDF that you can download, www.simulation-argument.com, simulation.pdf. And it's not really that long of an article. I think it's, let's look down here and see how many pages for those who do not like to read. It's 14 pages, and as you can see, there's not a lot on every single page, but A lot of it is, some of the pages are actually mathematical equations and so on. But the core of the simulation argument, the basic idea of this paper can be expressed roughly as follows. If there were a substantial chance that our civilization will ever get to the post-human stage and run many ancestor simulations, then how come you're not living in such a simulation? We shall develop this idea into a rigorous argument. Let us introduce the following notation. So it goes into some math to back it up, but the idea is that there was a civilization that was more, that was AI, got to the point of AI, and for lack of another way to describe it, let's go with, oh God, the word just went out of my head. What's the name of the famous city that the place where it was futuristic? Help me out, John.
Westworld.
No.
I was going to say Matrix. The Matrix.
No.
Yeah.
The place that. Okay. Never mind. Forget it. The place that was in the past that sunk into the ocean. The
Atlantis.
City, Atlantis. There you go.
Oh my goodness.
God, I feel like we're playing Pictionary. Okay. So, so let's just, for the sake of discussion, consider that the lost city of Atlantis was prehistory, and that they had developed technology to a point where they had developed AI, and they were part AI and part human, or some variation of biotechnical something, biotechno. And so, and they would have been the ones who designed the next world, okay? Now, some people will say, okay, well, wait a minute, where does God come into that? Okay, I'm not going to go there. All I'm going to talk about is this concept, okay? And the reason why I want to talk about it is because several things that are unexplained in our physical reality can be explained with computer simulation. And that, I'm going to name a couple of these things, okay? And so I'm going to stop screen sharing. And so let's just say, for example, I thought I turned my camera back on. There we go. Please. Thank you. Let's just throw out one for UFOs. Okay. Let's say, for example, over the last 50, 60 years, we've been hearing about UFOs. We have UFOs depicted in ancient civilizations, things in the sky, wheels, burning wheels, all kinds of things. And so, but in modern day, UFOs are depicted as, or seen as, poof, they're here, and poof, they're gone. It's like, whoa. Our physical laws don't allow that kind of speed or that kind of appear, disappear. We have reality where, something has to come into vision and then go out of vision, okay? So in and along that same kind of thinking, let's think about sort of like ghosts, okay? People see ghosts, people see spirits, they swear and be damned that they can see them. People have death experiences and near-death experiences where they physically leave, their spirit leaves their body and can be in another level of reality, but nobody else can see them, okay? And then they come back and they explain the reality that they were in while they were off somewhere. Miracles both on a biblical scale, where, we're talking about parting the Red Sea, who people say, obviously that's sort of a parable or something to tell the story to make it more epic, but, you know, God didn't actually part the Red Sea. Well, if God is writing the code, then sure enough, that would be pretty simple stuff, okay? The glitch in the matrix concept in the movie, we call it deja vu. I don't know about you, but I have gone through periods of my life where I've had an enormous amount of deja vu experiences, and then other times I've had none, okay? Dreams and visions, where you get stuff in your head that you wake up and you go, you know, I got no way of knowing where that came from. Okay. I don't even know that I knew that thing or could go there in my head or any of that kind of stuff. So now I'm going to switch over here to things like the Mandela Effect, which people are trying to associate with, in the video that we just watched, he mentioned the LHC, Large Hadron Collider, which is CERN. And he said that we're trying to mimic or break it down with the LHC. So let's just talk about the Mandela Effect, okay? You've got somebody like me who remembers everybody doesn't like something, but nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee, okay? And then you got this other person who goes, no, that's not how it goes. It goes like this. Everybody doesn't like something, but nobody does it like Sarah Lee. And you're like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. It's a double negative, and then it goes into some rah-rah about your product, okay? So all the other Mandela Effect anomalies can easily be wiped out with simulation theory, because the concept of simulation theory is that every one of us, 7 billion of us, which now that we know what our computing power is, it is a computer simulation. Okay, now if you take those 7 billion people, and let's say, for example, you knock out all the ones, you know, I'm not getting personal here, but there's a whole lot of people that are working on some pretty simple code. Okay, we all know some of those, and we have a whole lot of people who are, you know, live in areas of the world that they have very simple lives. It wouldn't take a lot of code or watching them to follow along with what they're doing all the time every day. Okay, so my last one is things like drugs altering our consciousness, okay, from things like marijuana to DMT to, you know, hallucinogens, whatever, that if it's possible that there's some connection to the bio of us and the computer program of us, that somehow messes up the connection of the electrical wire. I'm not going to go there because I'm not that kind of a scientist, but I just wanted to bring up a lot of things that otherwise don't have a good explanation. But when you throw in simulation theory, suddenly Pac-Man is not very strange. Okay? So, John, I sent you the PDF. I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at it or read it or whatever, but tell me what any of this might mean to you, or if it's just a bunch of hooey.
Well, you know, I mean, everything, people can find stuff to base anything in anything, really. I mean, the Mandela Effect, I don't know, things can be quite altered these days, so it's hard to know what's real unless you're there to see it, and even when you see it with your own eyes, you're still like, I don't know, can't call it, could be this.
Exactly.
I know I've been there a few times, and deja vu, that could merely be like, like the neurons retrofiring, like, when you have too much CBD or THC in your brain. I mean, it's a retroactive firing, so you like see it before you hear it, or you know it before it's retroactive in a way, cascading down the line from neuron to neuron, rather than going the other way as everything normally comes in. It could be something to deja vu, vujade. Drugs, LSD, don't know, never tried. Mushrooms, sounds good. I don't know. It's fascinating. UFOs, probably, if anything, has at least some sort of evidentiary information, like a video, perhaps a radiated crop circle, so that, well, there's something that was there and we saw a glowing something. Yeah. So I like stuff that at least leaves a residue, leaves a trail, leaves evidence, leaves something even a little bit tangible that you can maybe grasp a little bit, maybe help you figure out something else, lead you in another direction or many directions. Mind expansion, right? We're talking. Simulation theory, though. I really enjoyed the way you spoke about simulation theory, how you said that, let's say an average old couple in the middle of Bumble Freak somewhere, and not much to code, not much to fake. It's like the first level of Super Mario Brothers. There's not much invisible stuff, to find. And that's why I think it's fascinating, because when you talk about the computing power, think about the computing power that has to, let's say, run the program for everybody. Computer programs. I was just thinking about this the other day when we were talking about the sun. In my latest video, remember I showed Google Earth, and I showed the time of day with the sun as Google Earth portrays it. Now, isn't it funny how Google Earth has Google Earth, and you can do ground level, and you can do whatever altitude out to a certain distance, and then you have to switch to actually just see the moon and zoom around the moon like the Earth, and they can simulate the sun with the moon and the Earth, and they can do it on ground level of both. However, they can't quite figure out how to place the moon in the sky on ground level planet Earth, or the Earth in the sky and ground level moon. This is something they can't figure out yet. The sun is easy to knock down. It's simple. At least from a globe perspective, it's rudimentary, and whatever you think about it, it can be done at least as a simulation, but they can't figure out the moon. Why is that? Because nobody can see the moon the same way from every place they are? Is there too much information for the Google mainframes and the AI to handle? Do they just not have anyone creative enough?
You know that there's stories that there wasn't always a moon, right? That the moon, there was a time when there was no moon, and then one day there was a moon. Okay, so I'm just throwing that out there. But one thing I do have to go back to that I've neglected to talk about was on the 7 billion people, how some of them a large majority of them would be pretty easy to code their lives during the day, okay? But 6 or 8 hours of every day, what are they doing? Sleeping, okay? So you're really only having to kind of deal with half the human population during sleep.
That's when the sleep programming kicks in.
Right. And that's sleep mode, just like on a computer. All right. So I'm just here to say that I have no foundation of belief yet in any of this concept. I'm only bringing it up because it's something we haven't addressed, and it does go along with, and I don't care what anybody says, it goes along with the flat earth, because flat is more closely related to computer simulation than a globe would be, right? I mean, it's easy to do a couple of dimensions, okay? And as a matter of fact, a couple days ago, I watched that, what is it? The Jungle Book movie on Netflix, the new one. Okay. And it's all computer simulated. And I swear there's times when you just go, wait, I'm watching a computer simulation, because you're listening to real people's voices. Okay. You're listening to famous people's voices, but you're watching some of the most, unbelievable computer simulation of the action that you can, you've ever seen before. So go ahead. I didn't mean to completely cut you off.
No, I'll go you one better.
I have a tendency to do that. Yeah. Go ahead.
And moi aussi. I found an interesting anonymous video today talking about Julian Assange, and it wasn't fascinating for the fact that it was about Julian Assange. It's the fact that they videographically dissected his latest video, the interview with John Pilger, which was claimed to have taken place maybe a month before it aired on RT. So there was claims that it was also green screened, perhaps. But the funny thing about it is the world just discovered a new technique. It's an amazing technique. I don't know if you've seen this yet. And he shows how it works. It's amazing. What they noticed was that Julian Assange's collar lapel, his collar right next to his lapel jacket, was shifting. It was actually morphing. It was straight, and then you saw it sort of shadow, and then it was folding, but it wasn't folding. It was just morphing into nah. And so that's fascinating. They caught something around, I think, his facial region or something. Now, here's where the rubber meets the road. The guy comes out and shows how this technique works. It's probably like something that you find on an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Wii, something that, watches your physical movement. So it's something it's a physical box. It's like a, I don't know, rectilinear, it's sort of probably bowed a little bit to capture a wider angle or whatever. Right. It captures your facial recognition. Now, I don't know if you can think ahead already, find out where I'm going with this. They showed a representation of how this works. There's 3 video images. There's the actor down at the bottom. There is the edited actor over here, and then above it shows what the supervisor is doing. So the supervisor, right down in the bottom screen, you see a normal picture of George W.H. Bush. And he's going like this, and he's going like this, but he's not talking. He's got his mouth closed. He's just, classic right. B-roll.
I've actually seen this that you're talking about.
And so the actor starts making facial movements, like he's smiling, and all of a sudden, it's portrayed and morphed onto, and he can speak as well, and it's just the software algorithmically represents it as George Bush doing what the guy on top is puppeteering.
Yes.
So when you talk about Mandela Effect,
right? You see a video of someone talking like me right now. You can never be sure that someone didn't take video footage of me over time, input that into this computer database, and all the different faces that people make and smile and turn and do all of that gets inputted. And the person who's the actor, who's doing all of this talking and doing for you, okay, it's your face, it's your voice from voice recognition software, mimicking your voice, and they can say things you've never said before and do things you've never done before. Right?
It's crazy.
Okay, so.
Talk about simulation.
All right. So the idea, the reason why I wanted to talk about this was not because we have some amazing technology, but that we on Earth have some amazing technology. So if we have this what in the world does God, source, creator, have? Okay. And and you know what, here, I need to say this next, because to some people, this would actually take their flat earth high and make it go wah, 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 wah. Okay. Me, I'm free again because of hearing this, thinking about this information, because all of these things that I was unable to even grasp, trying to come up with an explanation for, and now can be more easily answered with regards to all this stuff. Like, I personally have never seen a UFO ever. Okay. Now, I know people who have seen lots of them, right? I've never seen one of those orb things. I've never seen any. I kind of got a glimpse of a ghost once, but I've never been afraid of ghosts or haunted by ghosts or any of that kind of thing, you know? Yeah. So, but when I think about all of these things, okay, here's one more that I didn't talk about already. Okay. But I'm going to bring this one up. Prayer. Prayer takes on a whole new meaning when you think about simulation theory, because it answers omnipotence, omnipresence. It answers the answering of prayer, both for an individual or for a group. It answers those stories that you've heard of group prayer, where 500 people on the same day at the same moment prayed about a thing, and it altered reality, altered the world. Okay. So when I throw that little part in there, because I strongly believe in prayer, I have personally had prayers answered before, and I have known many other people who have had prayers answered, and things like spontaneous regrowth of a limb that was cut off for whatever reason, and not something that grew back out over time, but poof, a new foot, okay, from prayer. So whether anybody wants to believe in that or not and think that's mythology or that's woohoo stuff or, charismatic religion talking, no, it's not. Okay. So, everybody who knows me by now, who's watched this or listened to any of these podcasts or any of this, knows that I'm a pretty open-minded person. So I'll entertain any idea until you can show me a reason why it's bogus. So when you think of simulation theory and you think of the Earth, the flat Earth, for example, okay, each one of us observes, and I've talked about this, I've been thinking about this for a long time, and now it's just sort of snapping into place, okay? And that is, if you're in New Zealand and I'm in Saskatchewan, and Lawrence is in, Taiwan, okay? We're observing three different times and places, okay? One of us is going to see a sun, one of us is going to see a moon, or not. Sometimes it's just not there. And, but our observations are going to be different based on where we are. Okay. So you can never show me the same thing that I am seeing from where you are. I'm not seeing that. Right. So this makes Pac-Man look like play school stuff. Right. That's the bottom line of the whole thing. And one of the reasons why I believe that Antarctica and possibly the Arctic are so vitally important to this concept is that until you actually go there, it does not exist in computer code. Okay? Until you actually arrive at this parameter, there's no reason for it to exist. So it can be created as you observe it in simulation theory. Now, once it exists, it's been coded. The next person comes to that parameter, okay? Now they're going to keep going forward. We need more parameter, okay? Then we keep going out. So let's just assume, for the sake of the discussion, that that sun that we see going south of south, where's that going? Why is that going there? Okay. And what's over there? So don't tell me that the secret space program hasn't been about that. Not up.
Yeah. Laurie, I've got an interesting point as well, because...
All right. I'll shut up.
Well,
I just wanted to throw all of these thoughts out on the table, and then I want you guys to talk about it, because I want your input.
When I was a child, I went and saw Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs many times. I kept going and watching it because it was really, really cool for you when you're a kid. And I can say that it was never magic mirror on the wall. It was mirror, mirror on the wall. So for that to have actually changed in our history and recorded as such, that could only happen in a simulation. You can't go back and change. You know, it's like if you've got if you'd got a DVD at the time, or a VHS, if they existed when Snow White came out, which was whenever, 1937 or something, and you'd kept it till today and it still worked, the simulation would overwrite the VHS or the DVD with the amended version. So that would need to be simulation for Mandela to be true. And you know, Mandela Effect is true. They haven't changed it in our minds, but they've changed it in the hardware that we live in, and they've changed it. So
they've changed the program. Right, exactly.
Yeah. So they're pushing simulation theory out, like probably another conspiracy, and they may well have different versions of it, and they will have a preferred version. Obviously, the first big push on this was The Matrix, you know, and it made so much sense, and it was such a cult movie. And if you think about us as humans here, even if it wasn't a simulation, what would you call if your actual soul was a central processing unit, which is just inserted in a meat suit during, you know, the time that you're nearly born or at conception? You know, the CPU is sent down to the body, something that weighs an ounce, and then when the meat suit's ended, the CPU is recycled, and it could be that we choose to come down here to experience life as an individual, and the sort of things in life that you want to feel if you're a soul, and you never, you know, you might say, well, I want to come back as a dolphin next time, because you know, these.
Oh, I definitely do.
You know,
Definitely.
And they give hints of it in, you know, they know what the future holds. If they can tell us that computer processing power is going to double every year, and they said that in 1971, and it was actually a written law, how the hell did they know? They only could know that if they knew the future, and they put things out in the movies. Just play the first 2 minutes of this little video, Laurie.
Well, I mean, not only do they put things out in the movies of the future, I mean, heck, look at all the people who have, okay, let me grab this. Look at all the people
just play this.
Who have
just play this.
Played, okay, just hold on. Oh, crap. It's not supposed to start. Look at all the people who showed, I got to change a couple settings here, Lawrence. So, I mean, you know, it could warn me, but that's okay, because I am fast on my feet.
And you're on good
so
time,
let's go. Wait, I got to go back here, share screen. Share application window.
Just play the first 2 or
No.
3 minutes.
I will as soon as I can pull it out of the billion-dollar brain. Here we go. And here, where is it? There. Boy, they made this harder. They did not make this easier. Okay, just want you to know this sharing thing. I'm going to complain to free YouTube about this.
The search warrant from the Metropolitan Police. Oh. Is this what you're looking for? You get all your equipment from Kellogg's. What do you want, Colonel? I want you back in MI5, and I want you back now. Oh, I am touched. Since you left us, I've managed to persuade Treasury to upgrade your old job to C3. Wow, £300 a year extra. Why don't you stop pretending to be a detective and get yourself a decent job? What's the matter, Colonel? Your mortality rate gone up? Mr. Harry Palmer? Yeah. I'm not keeping you, am I, Colonel? Your business is dead, Palmer. Not just about keeping alive on cornflakes. They're full of vitamins, really. Yeah. Of course, you realize I could draft you back anytime I like, but I'm doing a decent thing. I'm asking you to come back. You should be bloody grateful. I'll be bloody grateful if you leave, Colonel. This is work of national importance. If you want me back in that office, you're going to have to send round 2 very big men with a blackjack. Thank you, Palmer. Anytime. Yes?
Is that Palmer, private detective of London, speaking yes or no?
Who wants him?
Is that Palmer, private detective of London, speaking confirmed?
Yes.
You have received a key and £200 confirmed.
Who is this?
You have received a key and £200 confirmed.
Yes.
Mr. Palmer, you will deliver a package confirmed.
Yes, but who is this? Eh? And how did you pick on me?
Right, Laurie, that's what I want you to play.
Okay,
So
so
the
how
point
long
is-
ago was that film, Lawrence?
That was 1967, and we had the same sort of thing, you know, on these call center places that you ring, or the automated ones, and they'll ask you to describe what you want to talk about, and it'll give you some things like yes or no answers, just like that. So they knew in 1967 that this sort of technology is going to be up and running, you know, 40 years later or whatever. And it's the same with
because
the computing power.
if you answer the phone and you just say Lori speaking, it doesn't say anything until you go hello, and then it clicks in because that's what it's looking for. Just like this guy was looking, this computer simulation was looking for yes. He had to confirm yes. So you're right. I mean, that's a good catch. Very good catch. Well, I mean, just like I said, you know, they had the Illuminati card game, for crying out loud. I mean, come on, you know, Trump winning, and they've had The Simpsons with Trump winning, and the video of him walking down the escalator before it ever even happened. If you want to go ahead and put in all that code, because that's what's going to happen. I mean, most people would go, oh, then that just totally destroys the universal law of free will because, you know, that would be called predetermination or predestination. And then that screws the poodle with regards to free will and people making their own decisions. Well, no, if there are certain things that are already programmed in and the world has to react to it, how would that be any different than an earthquake or a volcano erupting, okay? I mean, we react to those things, right? We didn't have anything to do with it. So maybe we didn't have anything to do with Trump being elected, for example. You see what I'm saying? So I just think that it is a fascinating concept. I know a whole lot of people were affected to their core when they saw the first Matrix movie and just went, I'll be damned. That's we live in a matrix, because certain aspects of that, all right? The very last scene, well, I don't know if it's the last scene, but one of the last scenes where he goes into the room where the architect is, okay? And the architect is the guy that, you know, people say, oh, he's supposed to be God, right? And they have the walls lined with monitors of the Neo that came before. However many simulations had already occurred, the Neo from before, each one of them was going, you can't, blah, 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 or whatever it was he was saying, okay? And he looks around and he sees this has all happened, permutations of this has already all happened before. We have no idea if that could be true because, for example, in one version of history, I mean, look at the people right now who all of your life, Lawrence, you, me, and John, we can all say that we were all grew up and were programmed with Adolf Hitler was a horrible, sinister, war criminal, killer, blah, blah. Okay. And now all of a sudden there's all these people who say, no, he actually was a good guy. He's so misunderstood. And then you're just going, huh? What? When did that happen? Okay. And so I allow anybody to think whatever they want to think, but that's pretty revisionist if you want to know the truth. Okay. So with regards to the earth, with regards to the things altering and changing based on the decisions that we make or the words that we say, okay, Lawrence, I'm going to write it down forever in history as that book about modern college did not exist until we spoke of it. And then it was printed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I want somebody, anybody, I will not rest until somebody brings me a 1906 version of modern college, Blackheath, England, the story of, and the pictorials and all the stuff that's in that old book that has the wrong name on the front of it. Okay. That was created to support a bullshit map that is a forgery. Okay.
I mean, the only thing set in stone is really anything that's been carved into stone, really, and even that could be a lie too. So,
well, yeah, they're coming up with.
And the only way to change that is to bust it all apart.
Right. Well, they're coming up with carved stones that. Okay, I don't know if Flat Earth News, a group that I belong to. I think we all belong to it on Facebook. Thomas Thompson has this group, and he was digging into some fabulous churches, believe Italian, might be French, but I'm pretty sure they're Italian, that have these unbelievable carvings. Okay, they call them carvings. And in a minute, when you guys are talking, I'll go dig and find one of them. But there's one that is a woman, and she has a fishnet, a rope woven tied fishnet over her. Okay, the detail on every single rope of the fishnet, right, is, and then behind it is perfect. All right, and this is supposedly carved in marble with a hammer and a chisel.
Yeah, right.
This is, without any doubt in my mind, a version of the past of 3D printing. Okay? 3D printing. Because there's not an artist that I can think of who has the ability, nor the capacity, nor the tools of the time to be able to accomplish these amazing carvings. Okay, there's one where it's like a veil is over this woman. Okay, you see the perfect illusion of a veil that you can see through to what's below. Okay, now try to wrap your mind around that. And it's carved with a hammer and a chisel, not even a little Dremel tool.
That's
Okay?
what I was going to say, right? Yeah.
So technology and the timing don't work out so well. Okay, you can't. I mean, you and I both know that we should have been living in the Jetsons by now, right? We should be in little flying cars, and we should have, you know, robots and the whole nine yards, according to the timing and the time frame and the growth of technology. So it's like they give you stuff, but then they don't give you all of it. Okay. And the stuff they give you is like, what is that guy in the show with is it The Simpsons? The creepy old guy, the wealthy guy?
Mr. Smithers.
Mr. Smithers. Okay. He's like, yeah,
Excellent.
this is excellent because I'm going to be able to control my little people with these cell phones and this technology that I'm going to give them and their TV and their computer screens that I can watch them and download all their data.
And you mentioned The Simpsons, and like they said on South Park, Butters is trying to do some big Professor Chaos thing, and his little minion General Disturbance, whatever his name was, General Disarray, is like, nope, Simpsons did it. Nope, Simpsons did it. Nope, episode 401, Simpsons did it. And he's like, God dang it.
Yeah, okay. So, all right, so here's another one. Okay, there's this theory that we're all here for a purpose and that we're all, you know, there's a synchronicity to all of us and to everything and how it works and how it's connected and the 6 degrees, what is that number of degrees of separation? And that, you know, my brother said to me one time, we're all so arrogant. We think we're here for some amazing purpose, but your purpose could simply be to be seeing somebody over there and going, hey, on a street corner, which gets the attention of this person over here and makes them look and makes them not get ran over by a car. Okay? And that could be your purpose, your part in this synchronicity of the plan, right?
And then you're done. Do whatever you want.
Then you're done. Right. And then you should do whatever you want, but you should do great things anyway. But your mission's been fulfilled. Okay. Then I think about things like, okay, procrastination as an example. All right. Now, you know, you have something that you really need to do. I mean, you've got to make a proposal for a client, or you need to clean the house because everybody's coming for Christmas, or you need to, you know, get your car oil changed, or whatever the thing is that you really need to do. And you defeat yourself at every turn. I can't get started until I can see it happening. All right. I'll get started when, you know, it gets closer to when I need to do it because I'm better at working to deadline, or all of these reasons that you come up with for why you can't, you haven't, won't do this thing. Okay. To me, that's just another part of the whole glitchy thing, is that you have to wait. You can't do this thing until this other thing happens, and so on and so forth. Okay. Because sometimes I truly want to do whatever it is I need to do, but there's like little voices in my head that say, oh, go ahead and play one more game of solitaire online. Or why don't you eat first and then you can start on it. Okay. And so where do those voices come from? Because they're not mine. That's code, in my opinion. That is part of the matrix of the flow of time. Just like that guy in that video said, no, you know, one thing you haven't taken into consideration is time. Time's relative, right? We've already discovered that outside the realm, there is no time, right?
John, can I ask you a question? Have you ever played one of these virtual reality games?
In what form would you say? Like VR?
In
Like
any form.
oh, I mean,
Any form.
well, yeah. I mean, like I play PlayStation. Sure, yeah. I've
I
been
don't know whether
raised.
you caught the. Yeah, if you didn't catch the early show, I looked at the history of computer processing, and from 1971 till 2014, the processing power went up 750,000 times. So if you can imagine today's virtual reality game, where there was 750,000 times the processing power, how realistic would that virtual reality be?
Well, yeah, but there's Moore's law, but then it can only reach a certain point before there's like a limit to the physical smallness and the bigness of what it can do. So I don't know. I mean, I heard something recently. What was he? Guru type guy. I forget what it was. It was actually an advertisement that I kept watching. The guy was speaking about neurons in our head and saying that NASA recently discovered that there's no way that the human brain can evolve up to a certain point, because otherwise the physical solar system would have to evolve and change and expand and something. And this, no, I was following along. I'm interested. I was keen on it to hear what he had to say. And he says, yes, well, they're discovering something that, you know, my ancestors knew 15,000 years ago. He's an Indian, no surprise. And he explained it another way. He explained the neurons in our head, and he said that, like, there are two ways that they can evolve. The neurons can get physically bigger, or you can get more neurons. So you have more neurons and they can get bigger, but they can only get so big and you can have so many of them before two things suffer. If they get too big, they take up too much energy and your body shrivels, because the neurons are so large, they need a lot of power, energy to, you know, be capacitous. And then the sheer number of them, he said from a different standpoint, is now if you have too many neurons, now you're overloaded with all these different thoughts, and so you lose clarity. And he said, so basically you can't really evolve, you know, you can only evolve to a certain degree, and, you know, it's no point in, like, looking further, which I was kind of, oh, really? Well, I don't know.
Well, think about this, okay? If the capacity of the computer starts to get to be reached, then what are you going to do about it?
Then you go quantum computing with crystals.
Okay, but you can also lessen the amount of reality that you need to produce by lessening the amount of people that need to have reality produced for them. And how do you do that? Many ways. One is the dumbing down of people. Okay, fluoridate them, GMO them, electro smog them. Okay,
stress
the
them
other
out.
one would be lessen the number of them. Okay, and disease, wars, and just general genocide. And they are terraforming the plane, the realm. I mean, I kind of am going to stop using the word plane. I'm just going to start saying realm, because you know what? I mean, it's just really, plane is just so fifth grade or something. I'm not really sure how to say it. But so the idea is that if you have an ever expanding realm, because your people start to explore, the farther they go, that's why, you know, they're constantly saying, we haven't even uncovered all of the space that there is on Earth. There's miles and miles of ocean that have never been mapped, and we don't know if we've ever even been there. Okay, and you're like, how can that be? I mean, how do you know what the size of everything is if you just don't, you act like you know all this stuff, but then you turn around and say that stuff, okay? So it also helps with ideas of, when I look at the Tesseract cube now, and I see the other planes of the realms, and I think, well, this one is Saturn, and this one is Venus, and this one is Mars, and here's Uranus over here, and they're parts of the construction of the virtual realms that make, I mean, that whole geometric thing makes a whole lot more sense because it's easier to control. It's easier to write code for, I guess. Maybe it'd be the way to say it. But then we go to, okay, so if computer code is ones and zeros, then there's another code, okay, that is sort of a numbers code, and then there's a language code, and those two are, crossover, like for things like gematria, okay, where people say, oh, this means that, and that means this, and this controls that, and da-da-da. And so it's just all very connected, and we would be remiss if we didn't investigate it as part of the place that we've come to, where we've discovered we don't live on a ball, we don't live on a circle with an ice ring around the outside, we don't have a cute little dome or terrarium over the top of us, and we live in a realm. Well, what does a realm mean? What does a realm mean to you, John? I mean, now that you've been trying to model it.
God forbid it doesn't expand, because everyone's going to have to shit a brick because, oh my God, how do we explain this expansion? We said we lived on this perfect ball. Oh no. Yeah. I don't know. I guess it was something that I never really looked into, and I guess it's a question for Lawrence. Lawrence, what is your opinion between statute miles and nautical miles? Because I just recently decided to look into it, and you have an opinion on which one do you think is? Do you think it's valid? Yeah.
Maybe you weren't in yet, but tell him, Lawrence, what you think one and the other represents.
Nautical miles are, in my view, are to denote distance taking into account the curvature of the fake ball, and miles are the reality on a flat surface. They're called nautical miles because they were brought out for sailors, but that would make only the oceans curved and everything else will be flat. Well, we know that their model has everything curved, so I think they're caught betwixt and between here. You'll get on a plane and the pilot, sometimes he'll say they're going so fast in miles per hour. Sometimes they'll say knots. Well, if the Earth was a uniform surface, then why would you need two different types of measuring system where you could have just one? It wouldn't make any sense. So when they say, and it's like when you look at the routes on the globe, if you go across the equator between, say, Quito and Nairobi, or Nairobi and Singapore, those are on the same latitude. And when you bring up a flight route, or looking for the flight distance, it will show the route as a perfectly straight line across the globe. And similarly, if you go north-south, say on the prime meridian going south, from somewhere, close to London down to South Pole somewhere, you're going to get another straight line. But places outside there are going to get progressively more curved as you move north for similar sorts of routes in the same sort of direction. And that is because they can't, the globe is only accurate across the middle and straight down, and then the rest of it is inaccurate because it's been transformed from the flat map to create the illusion. So yeah, knots are a giveaway that they need a dual system to, Obviously, because they've just had miles, people would say, but yeah, what about the curvature of the Earth? Surely it's going to be a bit longer to get there.
Well, it's the same
So
thing
that's the one
with
thing.
it's the same thing with miles
Okay.
and kilometers and feet and meters and all that. It's to confuse all of us with multiple systems. All right, now I'm going to jump over to, because both of you guys played a part in this last or a couple weeks ago, but I think it was last week. We got into the black dot in Antarctica, and you know, we're always ready to take it back when, I always think of the bully on the plate, take it back when we make a boo-boo or we go too far. We're not exactly willing to admit at this juncture that the black dot is completely all about the camera and the sensor on the camera, but we are going to admit one thing, and it's a big yay-hoo. And that is when Lawrence talked about the black dot and played a video of the black dot in Antarctica zooming across the sky, because, you know, it's all sped up tape. It dinged that, hey, look at that. I bet you the angle of the dangle there is 23.4 degrees. Let's check that out. So, both John and Lawrence have progressed this concept to the point where we pretty much proved that the sky, the celestial ceiling, is 23.4 degrees angled. And how did we do that, guys?
Oh, I just followed the black dot. It was so easy.
Can we show the video, John? Have you got it there? Shall I find it?
John, can you show it, or you want to send me a link and I will?
If either of you guys can find it, I was just going to say,
I'll
mute
find
the
it.
audio. It's a good track. I love all the tracks I put up, but you know, mute it.
We don't care as long as it doesn't blow your head off, right? Do you have it, Lawrence? Did you find it already? If you'll send it to me, I'll get ready. And it's a very short clip for those who go, oh my God, not another video.
Yeah, you really just actually have to just show the angle. So,
okay, Lawrence, did you find it?
I'm just give me 1 second. I've got it just coming up.
Okay, so so the idea was that we got caught up. When Lawrence finds an anomaly, he just won't let it go until he discovers whether, you know, he gets it or not, or if it's something real or whatever. So he was looking at this video at, where is it, Casey Station. Okay, hold on here. And I said stop. Okay. And now Google Hangouts. Now we do the screen for the screen share. And now go to the application window, and where the heck is the video? Come on out over here. Thank you. I'll tell you what, I don't mean to be a complainer, but holy cow, they made this more difficult and screen time consuming. Okay, present to everyone. There it is. Is this, yes,
That's
this is yours, John. All right, now one thing I'm going to do before I do turn this on, and that is Flat Earth Casey Station. I'm going to turn the audio down on it. Here we go. All right, watch this. Okay,
full
play.
Screen, though, right? Make it full screen.
Just a minute. I thought I had it full. Oh, you mean full screen. Okay, got it. Okay, let me make sure we don't have the music too loud first. Okay, here we go. Full screen. And play.
From their own website.
Sometimes software. Feel free to explain what you're doing there.
Just looking southwest at like about, what was it, 225 degrees at 8 a.m. in the morning from the current KC station. So the time doesn't match up with the time on the webcam, which is ironic because I got all the other information right. That's where it is on the shed. So it was easy to literally pinpoint, the angle with SunCalc. There's just telling you the time. Again, 8 a.m. by SunCalc's reference. And that lines up completely with the station. Flipped it. Wasn't real happy with that flip, but showing it on a bigger map.
In other words, you flipped the map upside down.
Yeah. Artistic freedom. What can I say? I have a license.
Yeah,
I use it.
cool.
The time zone. I'm a little confused because they say it's UTC plus 11. Now we're in daylight savings, so I'm not sure. Is 12 o'clock? Would 12 o'clock be correct? But not sure. It's confusing to me, to be honest.
I'm not really sure whether they have daylight savings there or not.
Right. So here's the 23.4.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's
Lawrence.
here's the money shot, Lawrence.
It sort of goes out. It shifts a little, but you can see how it sort of steps ever so slightly. It is going down towards the horizon. It's unfortunate that we can't see the full circle. It's unfortunate we can't see it dip on the horizon, then dip again. They show it southwest, not south. So.
Yeah, but for a camera glitch to have the anomaly moving down at 23.4, that just is too much of a coincidence. I'm not buying that. I don't buy the computer glitch. I mean, you showed that video that somebody put out, John, trying to paper over the cracks. Why would anybody go to so much trouble to do that? Even pretending to be buying one of the webcams to get more information.
Right.
It won't surprise me if the Australian Antarctic people, they actually own the webcam company themselves, and they just put out what they want us to hear. I'm not buying it for 1 minute.
That, you know what, that's a whole nother point for a whole nother argument for another issue, but we have solved one issue, and I feel pretty confident about what that shows. And Ronnie and I, months ago, started out with the whole celestial movement of the stars and the celestial ecliptic and all of that stuff. And you can go back on our channel and look for the movement. Let's see, what is it? Celestial movement of the stars or something like that, and find the video. And it's pretty obvious that the ecliptic shows 23.4 degrees. Now, why is that number important? Because that's the number that the ball people, the globers, tell us that the Earth axis is tilted at 23. They say 23.5, just so the remaining number is not 6.66, okay? But it's 23.4. And so the idea that all they had to do, because of the celestial ecliptic, was to put that ad hoc reverse engineered Earth tilt on the axis game in there, and boom, there we go. What do you got, Lawrence?
Oh, how do I get mine? I want to show this model. Put me on.
I got you on.
Am I on now?
Now you are.
Can't see myself.
No.
Well, this is the.
You're not sharing anything but the Hangout screen, Lawrence.
Right. Well, put me on it so they can have a look at this model again.
I've got you on it. Is what I'm trying to tell you.
Oh, you can
but
see me now.
You're not sharing. Okay, let's start over. Who's on first?
I just want to show this model. Can you see it?
No, I see the Hangout screen. You're not screen sharing the application screen. Application screen.
I'll stop sharing then. I'll just talk. Let me talk. Right, so it's got me now, hasn't it? So there we go. I don't know why I needed to screen share. I've got this angled at approximately 23.4 at the height of the sun, and this is the model that we're hoping to get made very soon, and then start playing around with the light to see whether the effect of the sun, when shined through some perspex, which will be make up the ceiling of this realm, whether the sun mirrors what we actually see on Earth, and if it does, then I think we're on the sort of right tracks of a 3D model. Obviously, we don't know what's beneath. It may well be, some other
What
realm.
if it's the reverse angle, 23.4? It really can't be, because then that would make the angle taller. You arrived at that by what, Lawrence? By the height of the sun?
I worked out the height of the sun.
At the equator on the equinox, correct?
Yeah, and there's been quite a few videos coming out now trying to say that the sun isn't 3,500 miles or thereabouts away, because they're involving the horizon. But I'm not buying those thingies, because the pure math tells us that it is 3,500 miles high, or what we're actually seeing is. The bit that I don't get is the crepuscular rays when they're coming out at such a splayed angle. If you trace them back, then it wouldn't be 3,500 miles high. So that again lends weight to the simulation theory.
Well, also those videos that we see that people show seeing the sun through the clouds or below the clouds. I've seen a few of those. There's one where it's like a man and his daughter, a Christian guy, some guy, and we're showing this plane flying, and the sun is beneath the clouds. And of course, I've argued that we don't know that that's the sun. We don't see that that's the sun. We don't know where that plane is flying. It could be flying over a volcano that's making the sky orange underneath. We just don't know. And so, but these people that are pushing this, that the sun is beneath the clouds, or there's clouds behind the sun, okay, that also screams simulation theory, because we know that the sun is not that close, or we'd be like feeling it, the hot, right? It'd be hot. And on top of that, that kind of screams globe, because the sun's supposed to be going down over the horizon, which would give us the angle of the clouds being above the sun. So you kind of got to be a little careful with that idea of the sun beneath the clouds, or the sun clouds in, behind the sun, not in front of, behind the sun. You got people who show videos of clouds behind the sun. Well, that could be an optical illusion. The sun could be basically, I don't want to use the word burn, but burning through the visual of the density of the cloud in front of it and making it look like it's behind it. But the more I'm looking into simulation theory, needless to say, the easier it gets to apply it. Okay. And so, I and others need to be very careful to not just throw everything in that bin, oh, that's simulation theory. Oh, I got an explanation for that. It's simulation theory.
Well, perhaps there's a better term for it rather than simulation theory. That's like saying conspiracy theory. Now they're saying fake news and flat earth. So, instead of simulation theory, let's find something that the controllers can't come up with, something that, classifies it with no uncertain terms.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know what that might be.
Well, I don't know what it is either, because they've had plenty of a jump on us, just like they always have. You can't use a lot of words now. I'm still engaged. I haven't done this in a long time, but I decided to engage one of my friends on Facebook who wrote a post, and it found it in my news feed as I'm scrolling by, and I, did the record scratch sound, what? And it said, if you're one of those flat-hard, flat earthers, unfriend me now because I don't want to read any more of your shit on my news feed. Okay. And so I'm like, oh, bingo. I love people like you. Let me just dump a little flat earth on your wall here or your thread. Right. So I, engaged, and there was one woman who just personally attacked me. And so that was easy to get rid of. I just blocked her. And so she can't see what I'm continuing to talk about. But there were like 4 guys, one of which, the guy who made the post, I've been friends with, I think, since 2010. And I'm shocked that he's never seen any of my flat earth stuff come through the news feed so far, and that he hadn't already unfriended me. Well, as I engaged these guys, it became apparent that they all had barely done a cursory amount of research into flat earth theory. But one thing that I did right off the bat, because I know about this goofball map and model problem, okay, I wanted to be sure and explain to them, not all flat earthers have the same opinion about what the flat earth represents. There is no singular flat earth theory, okay? And so, because I wasn't going to waste a bunch of time with the keyboard cowboy doing the, no, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, okay? And yeah, I agree, that's stupid, because then once you start agreeing with them, you're kind of done. So I'm still engaged in this thing, which like I said, is kind of an interesting exercise, because I haven't done this probably for close to a year. I don't engage Globers anymore. And so it's like, wow, I'm so much more confident about what my responses are today than I was a year ago. Because when they say things like, yeah, you just go ahead and explain tides. It's like, well, okay, I got you one, and I'll take your tides and I'll raise you. How come there's 2 tides a day? And if the moon was causing it, it's not on both sides. And what happens when there's a tide on the other side? And then it was like crickets. Okay, so we got past the tide one. And it just kind of went on from there. And, it dawned on me, really, at the end of the day, all you have to say is this one thing. Can you show me empirical evidence that you personally have that we live on a spinning ball? I mean, no one can say yes. Not one person has personal knowledge that we live on a spinning ball. And so once you get to that place of confidence, then you can step back up to the plate with a really big fat baseball bat, okay, where you're going to hit the ball when they pitch it. And now I've got people, these same guys, in the second day now of this thread. We've slept and we're back. And they're saying things like, so you're saying that there's no gravity. Okay, with the gravity. And then you go, no, actually, gravity's never been proven. And you can just almost hear that, she said there's no gravity. She's totally a flat tard. Okay. And then so you go, what purpose would what I need to believe in gravity when the realm is flat? There's no need for gravity. And then it's this business about, Einstein's crap about masses attracting each other and relativity and all that. And I'm like, you know what? You don't know any of that crap. It's all fringe mathematics. They actually had to invent fluxions and tensors and stuff to be able to make their mathematical equations show us something that we can't even observe. Okay? So it's fringe math. And so, no, I'm sorry, I don't believe in it because it doesn't prove anything. And, so unless you can observe, and so this has been going on, but you know what? the fact that I'm still hanging in there with 4 guys who think they're pretty darn smart, who started out calling me a retard and ignorant and everything, and all that stopped. Now it's hard questions. All right. If you can engage and keep your emotions completely out of it, and no matter what they call you, you just, before you hit the keyboard, sticks and stones can break my bones and names can never hurt me. And just then start typing, because this is a war. This is an information war. And this is a big part of it, right? This is a huge part of it, is showing them you're just regurgitating the same. We already all know this same crap. We all know this. We all got that. Okay. We all got that indoctrination. Now snap out of it. Okay. So this simulation theory is going to be sort of the same thing. And so I agree with you, John. I don't want to get sucked into another half psyop that we actually do live in a simulation, but we're going to give you the bogus version of the simulation for you to chew on, and we're going to hold the good stuff for over here.
Well, I've always been a fan of input-output and getting through the filter. I sort of hedge my bets in a way. I speak to my phone like I'm talking right to the NSA, and I give them ideas and stuff. And I sort of have applied that, here and there to the real world, where, you think it, have the emotion, feel what it's going to feel like, and then have the intention, and then say it. But it's got to be all normal. It's got to be.
You just gave me
natural.
another one. You just gave me another one for my list. The NSA.
Oh, no.
The NSA. Think about it. Okay. In simulation theory, the NSA is just a feed, a trunk line off of the code that's going out to the reality everywhere anyway. Okay. That wasn't hard. That wasn't like geniuses took to create this NSA database of how do we control. They already do, right? They already know everything. So you would never be able to find that trail, would you? Because it's in code.
Yeah, you can discover codes. You can discover things. When I was a child, I used to freak the phone lines. You type 660, and the last 4 digits of that payphone number, or any number, you hang it up, pick it up, listen for the tone, hang it right back up. It starts ringing. Somebody picks it up and goes, hello, hello. And then they hang it up, and it starts ringing again.
Right.
It's classic technique. It's like for a ping back, really.
Right.
But I didn't know that as a child.
Well, okay. So we're gonna wrap this up, because we kind of already agreed that we were gonna just sort of cut this down from 3 to 2 hours at least. So this was just a little bit of a bite into some things that I would like and other people to look into and to, start researching. And don't be afraid of it, okay? If it is the truth, if it is what it is, then there's not a whole lot we're going to be able to do about it. Is it, Lawrence?
That's true, really. But before we go, while you're there, John, looking at more diamond map illustrations, it would be interesting if you could actually do some of the flight routes to demonstrate where we get an exact match with the globe, and others where we don't, when they've got these elongated curves of great circle routes. And obviously, if we're looking at the Sydney-Santiago flight on the Caligna map, then you're going to have to do the Pac-Man on it, where if you have a model of a little plane flying off one side and coming back on the other. I think that would look really cool if you could do that.
Well,
I can
it's no
give you
different than the sun, plotting the sun, would it be,
Yeah.
John?
Yeah.
It's real simple. And I was going to go you one better and go to earthnullschool.net and catch the cloud cover. and model that out to see how it forms over the diamond.
Yeah.
These are, I mean, you read my mind, Lawrence. Yeah, I've been looking at flight route images, and I'm going, actually everything, every map I now look at, I go, I want to see what that's going to look like on the diamond. And I know I'm driving people crazy out there on the internet. You know who I'm talking about.
Well,
yeah, I mean, somebody put something out a few days ago. They were making some comments saying that we were caught out by the UTM map, which is the one that's used by Free Energy, trying to make out that we live on a rectangle. But Free Energy never told us the full detail about the UTM map, and it has different scales the further you move away from the equator. The distances between longitudes gets narrower and narrower to reflect that they actually converge at the poles. And the polar regions has got a whole set of measurements of its own on the UTM system. So yeah, again, and I spoke to one of the people who put out a very detailed video on the UTM map. He knew it inside out, and I asked him the question: do the distances converge in line with longitude converging at the poles? And he said absolutely. But it makes sense anyway. So Free Energy, I've asked him this, and he's remained very quiet on it. But he is putting out disinfo when it comes to the UTM map.
yeah,
So
because
it
it's
needs to
not
be
the
seen,
perfect square grid.
whoever Free Energy is, he's obviously put us onto the fact that we were sold a false model, but the one that he's put forward is flawed in itself, and he's been silent for many months now and hasn't revealed who he or she is, where they live. We don't know what their voice is. So I'm thinking,
Or
that
if they're
they
even
may
one
well,
person, we don't know.
I think it could well be somebody like Eric Dubai for all we know. They're
Wouldn't that
trolling
just
everything, and
frost your flakes?
and when you get certain channels still pushing out information as recently as a few days ago, trying to make out that these aircraft are flying supersonic to make the map more believable, even if they did, the map is still wrong because the scale is completely wrong.
Well, we've shown that. I mean, we've shown that on more than one video that
many times, yeah.
That just the last one, the one about the answers to the questions last week, we went through, and unless somebody's lying or withholding the type of commercial airplane that they use as exclusively or especially at Qantas, but there is one plane that they use exclusively at Qantas, and it cannot go any faster than, what was it, 880 miles or something like that. And we don't even know now. I've got to go back and look and see, is that nautical miles or is that statute miles? I mean, what kind of miles is they? And so the bottom line is disinformation is everywhere, and anybody who regurgitates disinformation needs to question themselves if they're checking their information themselves, verifying it before they pass it on. And so the days of breaking and share, like and share should be over, because we should take the time to verify and not have to be, I was first, I was second, I was third to pass this on. So, okay, you guys, great chat. I'm glad we had this time to investigate the beginnings of what we're going to call simulation theory, but I would say within a short period of time it'll be named something else, because we like to have our own names. And we won't be back on Wednesday next week. We will either be back on Saturday night or Sunday morning. John has some different work hours. Lawrence is always had to stay up extremely late to do these evening hangouts, and I'm flexible right now. So probably looking like Sunday morning, if that's going to work for you, John. Maybe someplace like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning.
That's interesting. That would be fascinating.
It's a thought.
Yeah. completely different light. Okay.
Yeah. So, fresh minds early in the morning. Hope we're awake.
Rise
All right.
and
Thanks
shine.
everybody for watching. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We appreciate your patience with us getting off topic of just flat Earth, but we believe that it's probably a good chance this goes right along with it. So we'll see you next week. And good night, Lawrence. Good night, John.
Good night,
and
everyone.
good night, John Boy.
Night all.